This is probably the darkest demon creature in any horror movie I've seen, but not for the reason you think. And I know what you're going to say. There's so many good horror movies out there with demons that are just as dark and more brutal. You got the demon Bagul from Sinister, who has kids kill their own families just so he can feed on their souls. You know, you have the demon from The Exorcist. You have the Deadites from Evil Dead that just spread like an infection and cause chaos everywhere they go. But I'm going to tell you one thing right now. The demon from Smile, even though brutality and violence is integral to his existence, its motivations and even his primordial existence remain unclear. It is ambiguous horror in a way that the other demons simply are not. Guys, listen, I'm not big on the Smile series, alright? I think they're okay. I think they're fine. This is not going to be a movie review video on Smile, but I'm just going to briefly go through them. I think the first one is well directed, well acted, really well acted. I think there are some pretty cool jump scares, but I think the concept is more interesting than the story we actually got. Smile 2, even though it's pretty much a retread of the first one, in some ways it's even more well directed. Some of the scares are a bit more creative, a bit more clever. The acting, you know, my lead Noemi, whatever her name is, she is great. But ultimately, again, we arrive at an impasse where the concept, the demon itself, and the ambiguity behind its existence is more interesting than the actual movie. Now, unfortunately, I am 50-50 on these movies, and I grimace before watching them because they utilize three things which I hate. Hallucinations, to the point where it's used as a crutch for the story. I hate it when movies do this. Rampant hallucinations all the time. You don't know what's real, but there's no story happening. All right? It's like a dream sequence is happening every second. Smile, especially in the case of Smile 2, they did this a lot, okay? Jump scares, which is a gripe of mine when it's not done right. Now, they do it effectively in Smile, but the jump scares is paired with the third gripe I have. This. Women with long, dark hair smiling in the dark, coming at you with a knife. Like, this is my horror archetype. I think as a child, I either dreamt of or was actually in real life chased by a woman with long, dark hair with a knife, smiling. Maybe it was my mother. I'm not entirely sure, but that is my horror archetype. Okay? I don't know why. Maybe I was traumatized as a child or something, but these movies throw that in my face every 2 seconds with a smile. It's like, that's the horror. I don't like watching it. I just don't. Sometimes it's well done. Sometimes it's just gratuitous. But it's part of the reason I'm not big on movies. But I do appreciate them for being well made, but ultimately, we're here for the demon. I'm not afraid of dolls. I'm not afraid of haunted children, zombies, or ghosts. I am afraid of that, okay? Not when guys are the ones doing it. It's with the women with their hair down. It's just something is off. They're so much more scary. If we were to go through all the creatures out there, all the demons, they have a lot of things in common. There are a few things that they have in common. Mostly it comes down to these three things. They either want to cause chaos and misery for the sake of causing chaos and misery. They want to feast on souls, all right, to fuel themselves or fuel the one they serve, being Satan. Or they want to spite God, either because they worship Satan or because they just hate God. These are the three most common patterns when it comes to demons. Now, there are a few more, like maybe they just hate humanity, in which case they fall into the first branch where they just want to cause chaos, okay? The demon from the Insidious movie, the red guy, okay? He wants to possess the soul of the kid so he can just cause as much chaos and pain on earth as he can. He's just an evil entity. Bagul, he wants to feast on the souls of kids after they've killed their families, right? Exorcist, he wants to take a host so he can not only take over a soul, but he wants to spite God. He wants to make Possezzu, whatever his name is, the demon from Exorcist, he wants people to lose faith in God. He probably serves the devil. That's probably his primary reason. And hates God, because he's probably a fallen angel as well, to some degree. Most of these demons, you know, they either want to possess someone because they want to take on a soul, or they hate God. Okay? Now, Exorcist 3 does a great job with making the demon more ambiguous in terms of its horror and its motivations, and I would recommend watching that, because I think it even does a better job in that specific part than Exorcist 1. I think Exorcist 3 is one of the most underrated horror movies of all time, and people need to watch, okay? That's all I'm saying. Annabelle, all the demons in Conjuring, the nun Valak, right? They all serve Belial in that universe, which serves as a dark angel Belial who serves as a counterpoint to God. Okay, so basically they have similar intentions. They want to cause misery and suffering in servitude to the devil. The Smile demon, as far as we know, is not linked to any religious or Catholic faith. Okay, we've only had 2 movies, but from what we see, it's not linked to a religion. It has no master that we know of. It only has itself. It serves itself and its own singular spread. So these demons have, at some point, we see a physical form. The Annabelle doll's form is that black demon that slings like Spider-Man in one shot, and then it just kind of loses all its aura, to be honest, I'm gonna be real. We got Valak, who looks really damn cool when you see her true form behind the nun. Essentially, Pazazu, you do see like a little bit of his form. Now, I don't know if that's his final form in the Bible, or in like the mythology, comes from Mesopotamian mythology. He's a bit different, but the Smiles demon's final form is ambiguous, because yes, you do see a form when all these protagonists that we see finally get what's coming to them, and we see the Smiles' true form. We're led to believe, okay, that's what the creature looks like. I beg to differ. See, when we see some of the victims' drawings of this creature, it's vastly different. This being shapeshifts in front of them, and not just into human form. We see shadowy forms with a simple smile. We see things like this is stuff no human is supposed to see, and yet we see it in glimpses. It's cosmic horror at its finest. We don't actually know what this thing is. And I don't think whatever we see at the final act of these movies is the final form at all. I think it's the form it takes to fit human comprehension, because we cannot truly comprehend what it really is and what it's after. Like I said before, most demons are rooted in Catholicism that we see in these movies, right? So it makes these plot lines very predictable, right? Beelzebub, Moloch, the Bagul from Sinister, who's literally, I think, a brother or a sibling to Moloch. Pazazu, you know, they're all demons and dukes of hell, right? And in some ways, it makes them very scary, but in some ways, when you find out what their motivations are, it makes them less scary. With Smile, the devil is not even a factor, nor is God. Not a single cross is used to stave off the demon in any of these movies. This ain't a church, right? No churches exist in this. This is just the mind. The power level of this entity is very vague. It can fuck with you in an infinite amount of ways. It has strength because it can fucking throw you around like it's no tomorrow. But it also, most of it's happening in your mind. So it's got like Charles Xavier Omega level mutant powers times 10. Alright? It can make you hallucinate an entire reality. In Smile 2, it makes the main character hallucinate an entire friendship. Spoiler alert. It makes her hallucinate her murdering her own mother and driving away to see someone who's about to kill her. It hallucinates all this to the point where she's actually been in a trance the whole time, and almost in front of an audience that she has to perform in front of. You know what I mean? Like, this is another level of hallucination. It fucks with the mind. The mind is its playground. It exists to spread itself, its essence across the world, right? It needs a witness. It needs a host to kill itself so that the witness can see it and spread the virus, okay? And it can spread to anybody. And in the end of Smile 2 shows us the true expansion of this power. But why? Why does it spread? This is the issue, right? This is the fundamental thing that makes this villain stand out. He doesn't serve the devil because it's not really trying to feast on souls that we know of, right? Maybe you could say if it succeeds in having someone kill themselves, it gets their soul. Some have theorized that it is trying to get souls and souls so it can rack up smiles. It's not concerned with souls, it's concerned with smiles that it can place on his body. So it can add to its collection of smiles, and the collection of smiles makes up and encompasses its final form, which is freaky. So I don't believe the soul, in the same way a demon would feel a soul to make itself more powerful or serve the devil despite God. I don't think this is what's happening here. I think it's literally trying to get smiles and put them on itself so it fuels itself in the manner of it's a collector. It does it for its own malice, its own vice. That's its vice, to collect smiles. Now, why Smile? That's a very good question. The theme of the Smile movies is trauma. This entity fuels itself on trauma. And I believe that's how its origin came to be. And we're going to get into that. But if you think about it, every single victim we see that the Smile is able to influence has had trauma in their lives that comes back to them, that the demon can use in their hallucinations. If you have trauma, the more trauma you have, the bigger the playground for the demon. And the demon simply wants to play. That's its intrinsic motivation. It's fueled through trauma. What is a smile indicative of? If a person has trauma, they're burying all that darkness within them deep down, and they cover it with a smile on their face, making it worse because the external environment, the people around them, don't know what's bubbling inside. And what's bubbling inside is bad because they're repressing it with a smile. If they were to let it all out, it'd be a fucking explosion, right? But they're not. They're letting it boil within. All that pain, resentment, anger, fury at the world, covering it with a smile. The smile is a symbol for the hidden trauma that we all fear, and this demon thrives on it. That's why the smiles, but it collects smiles for that reason. It's collecting hidden, unearthed trauma. That's its motivation. Why is it doing that? Trauma is its playground. It's like a child. It's like an innocent child, guys, that's in a playground, and it can play for as long as it wants because it's a kid. Kids, until they get tired, they can keep going and keep going. They just want to play, right? That's what this demon is. Maybe it doesn't serve a god or a demon or hates the devil. No, maybe it doesn't even hate humanity, right? Maybe it just is there to play. This can perfectly be symbolized in the quote that the entity says to Rose in the first movie when she hallucinates it and thinks that she's okay. Because that's the thing, the entity gives you false hope. It makes you think you're in control. It's all just a game to him. The entity says, "You can't escape your own mind, Rose." The mind is filled with trauma. Trauma with past events that the entity can use to manipulate reality and make you think you're in control when you're not. It plays with you. You're its plaything at the end of the day. That's the unfortunate reality of it all. Now, we have to see what is the extent to this entity's power. At the end, I don't know, I don't want to spoil this for you guys, but I am. Smile 2's ending, the main character conducts the final chain. She's at a concert in front of a bunch of fans who are waiting to see her, and the entity possesses her, and she does it in front of everyone, all of them with their cameras out. So we got like a couple thousand people in one arena seeing all this, witnessing this kind of trauma. What does it do to them? Is it safe to say the entity has infected all these people, about 5 to 10,000 people at once? And that's not to even talk about all the people that were watching the videos that are getting posted on social media days later, minutes later. Could they get infected beyond the camera? Now, maybe. But the filmmakers, I feel, either have done something more clever than they thought. I don't think they actually expanded on this as much as they could have. Because, remember, the demon feeds on trauma. It feeds on it. That's the thing. The filmmakers wouldn't write an infection on a person that was normal. They specifically use characters that have gone through trauma. Every single main character that has this infection has been through some trauma. Could the filmmakers be giving us a message here? What if the people that watched it through video on social media didn't get infected because they don't find it traumatic as much as the people who saw it in person? Because maybe it's a statement on society in general when it comes to us being desensitized to violence on social media. How many goddamn graphic videos do we see of violence every single day that we just can skim across? People dying left and right, but it means nothing to us, right? We don't really feel that trauma. Now, we don't see people bashing their brains in with a microphone in a stadium every day, sure. So maybe, in that sense, everyone is infected. But what if this is a limit that the demon has, where a social media post showing a kill doesn't really conduct the trauma that it wants to spread? Now, you could say, okay, maybe this demon can just spread whatever. As long as it sees it, as long as the person sees it because they're a witness, that's the rules of the game. But I think the writers are a bit smart on that. I think the writers are implementing trauma as the main theme here. But we gotta ask ourselves, what happens if the whole world gets infected? Let's say the demon is powerful enough to infect everyone. How would that work? Everyone's gonna die. So will the demon just spread? Or will it just cease to exist? And if it does cease to exist, where does it go? Is it in hell? I don't think it is in hell. I don't think it would be that easy for the demon to just escape hell like that and be on Earth. I think the demon is omnipresent in our reality, but is stuck in a void. Similar to the Kandorian demon. In the Evil Dead universe, the Kandorian demon that causes all the Deadites to come out, He existed on Earth way before humans, eons before humans, and he was forced to watch as humans evolved to the point where he hates them. But he found out that when humans die and their lost souls in hell can be brought back and put in their body in the form of deadites, his own personal demon army that he releases on humanity out of spite, out of hatred for humans. That's a Kandorian demon's motivation, but he was an omnipresent force. Similar, but Smile's demon is something else. It's like this child, this demonic child that's stuck in the void, in the ether, watching us, and then something lets us in. Something lets it in, and I believe it's trauma. I believe one person had so much trauma induced to them that they let the demon in. How? I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all. Perhaps they saw some brutal death, and it caused them to go stir crazy, and it let the demon in. But the demon was small in power. It didn't have a lot of influence over the world yet. So it had to use the pattern that it just saw in that guy from seeing a death and causing his own trauma. It causes this to replicate throughout time. That's the start of the chain. One person's trauma let it in, but the demon was too weak to do anything. So he manipulated events to have that guy, off himself in front of another person. Then the chain goes on. And here we are. And now, the end of Smile 2 suggests maybe the whole world could be infected by now, or at least half of it. And what happens if multiple people infect themselves and just die, right? You could say, okay, but there's going to be new kids born. There'll always be people being born every day. There's no way the whole population will go at once. Maybe not at once, but over time they will. And that means the demon is it's a snake that eats its own tail, right? It's a self-eating demon. So its purpose is to play in the playground of trauma as long as it can, before the cycle ends and there's no more life. Until there is. Until maybe God or something else has to intervene and create new life. And then the demon is in the void watching and waiting. It's a very trippy thing to understand. This is why I really enjoy this demons as a concept more than most. Because it possesses people, but not in the same way that demons in Catholicism-based movies like Conjuring and Exorcist do. It possesses to cause greater influence, and it spreads like a virus, like an infection, through the use of trauma. And its motivation, in my opinion, is as a collector of smiles, but a play. It's playful. It wants to play in the playground of human trauma. That's where it reigns supreme. That is its hell. Well, our hell. It's heaven, essentially. So I love the fact that this demon is completely separated from any notion of God or devil or Bible, anything like that, any religion at all. Maybe you could say, oh, this demon is kind of related to this one demon in this one mythology, but maybe you can connect the dots there. But the movies don't make a conscious effort to do this, and this is why this villain is so creepy and effective. And the fact that it uses smiles just makes it even creepier. Because the demon itself may not even be aware of why the smile itself is so appealing and fearful to humans, because a smile in an odd environment is creepy. Smiles can be fine, right? But if it's a smile on a person that looks dead inside, that is a terrible looking thing, and that is what the demon feeds on. The smiles in an odd environment, the smiles that hide something dark within, like trauma. That's the demon from Smile. That's the villain from Smile. This is the creepiest, darkest demon ever. By the way, it is dark because it fucks with you on a level that most demons do not. It gives you false hope every single day to take it away from you. And then when you least expect it, it shows you it's one of its true forms at least, possesses you and has the trauma infection spread on. This is as brutal as a demon as it gets. Simple. Most other demons, they either have a purpose, feed on souls so they can summon a final form, or serve a devil or a god, or hate on a god, or they just hate humans for whatever reason, and they want to cause suffering. Not this guy. This guy likes to cause suffering. He's malicious, but it's playful to him. It's not because he finds it morally evil on purpose, because he's serving the devil, and the devil's duty is to fuck with humans to spite God, right? The devil wants to influence humanity negatively, right? It's not that. It doesn't care about the God, devil. It doesn't care about morality. It's just playing in the playground of trauma. That's it, guys. That's why I find this creature so effective. And I'm going to tell you that this is for the demons. In terms of the slashers, in terms of the killers in horror movies that I haven't got to, the weirdest and creepiest killer is this guy.